Welcome to the Midwest. My name is Jesse, and this will be the first of a series of videos on anxiety. And this is a subject that sadly enough, I have a lot of experience with, anxiety. And there's a lot of things that come into play, a lot of things that I will also make other videos on with relations to anxiety, right? So anxiety is often thrown in there with depression, despair, constant sense of fear. And so a lot of these things kind of get mixed around. And let me tell you this, if you're experiencing anxiety on a regular basis, you know what it is to be mixed up and mixed around. You know what it is to have all these things and you're not really sure what way is up. So I just want to start talking about anxiety first. And I want to give you my advice is to you on how to approach this issue, because if you're like me, you are suffering from anxiety. I suffered for years from anxiety, and I'm on the other side of it. And I will say that it's something that is a part of life. It's not something that you will just say, well, I never experience anxiety ever now. No, it's part of life. However, the crazy, hardcore anxiety you're experiencing right now, let's talk about that. Okay? One of my favorite quotes about anxiety comes from the Danish philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, and he says that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. And I think this is a really great way to look at it, a really great way to describe anxiety, because it is a dizzying, disorienting feeling. It's a feeling of almost, it's this, I don't know what to do in this situation. Now, if you think about anxiety, and if you think about what Kierkegaard said about the dizziness of freedom, there's this thing, freedom. Well, wait a minute, I don't feel free. I don't even feel like I don't feel like I have much freedom over my life. I feel kind of trapped. What is he talking about there? Let's think about this. Now, this is where I do think we have to make the distinction between the different times and places we feel anxiety. Many times we avoid things that we want because they are situated in environments of anxiety. Case in point, romantic relationships, right? That's probably one of the biggest things that we can all share is the fact that the pursuit of a romantic relationship is something that causes enormous amounts of anxiety. And it's like, wait a minute, this shouldn't cause anxiety. This is love. This is the most natural thing that a human being can do, right? Well, why is it so hard for me? I used to feel like it was some kind of a dance that I didn't know the moves to. I just, somehow would get, I would just get lucky with, and pun intended, but not really, I would somehow just get lucky if the other person, right, the person who I liked, or maybe even a person I didn't really have interest in, but suddenly they're attractive to me because they're interested in me. But I would depend so much on them making the first move or on them making a connection because I just didn't know what to do. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Why are we avoiding these things? Social anxiety. You get put in a situation, you want to be there. Just like a romantic relationship, you want to be there. You want to have friends. You want to be able to go to a party and not just freak out, right? And so, what is it? What is it? This is something that, why is it that I avoid these situations? Well, I don't like to feel that anxiety. It's dizzying. It's disorienting. I don't know what to do. I'm overthinking everything. If we're talking about philosophers, Socrates, he's famous for the quote, "An unexamined life is not worth living." An unexamined life is not worth living. But the problem that we have when we suffer from anxiety is we can't stop analyzing, right? We can't stop examining ourselves. We can't stop overthinking these issues. So we drive ourselves crazy. We get so hung up in this loop that we find ourselves disoriented by the situation because we can't get out of our head. There's also other situations that cause us anxiety. These situations are the ones we're trying to get out of. Bad relationships. Maybe you're already in a relationship, but it causes you anxiety. These horrible social situations. Constant worry. Stressors that are coming in on you that you have no control over. Where when we say anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, in this case, we don't feel very free. So, wow. So that's a lot. We're feeling anxiety in these situations we feel stuck in, and then we avoid these situations that we would love to be in because they cause us anxiety. Now, this is why anxiety often leads to depression, despair. You get where I'm going with this. This is why anxiety, if we can figure out how to work with anxiety, if we can figure out how to work with that and master ourselves, then maybe we can make some progress. So, in my life, I ran away from everything. I ran away from everything that caused me anxiety, and I ran away from everything that caused me any kind of pain or even the slightest bit of discomfort. And you know what I found? I found that there's no running from it because it will find you. You stay home from the party because you know you're going to feel anxious if you go. Then you feel the anxiety of what am I doing with my life? It followed me home. This anxiety followed me home. Same thing with the romantic situation. Same thing with all of these things that we avoid, these good things that we avoid simply because they cause us anxiety. So my friends, this is my advice to you. And again, this is just the first of many videos I'm going to make on this because this is an issue that especially in the last 2 months, I have received more emails about the issues of anxiety and depression than any other thing. And I'm talking, I get a lot of emails now. Thank you for those. But I get more comments, more Instagram messages, more emails about anxiety and depression than anything else. And this is something that, like I said, I've overcome, and you can too. Here is my best advice to you. We have to look at anxiety we can't look at it as the boogeyman. We can't look at it as the same thing as physical pain. We can't look at it as the same way we would look at, getting burned or cut. I know it feels like the same kind of fear, right? We induce that fear response. The heart starts beating, you start breathing heavy. I understand, but we have to start training ourselves with anxiety. If you follow this channel, you know that I train in extreme cold temperatures. I firmly believe that cold training, specifically cold training, also breath work, and there's a lot of other supplements, but cold training is the key, one of the keys at least, to training yourself to deal with anxiety. But it's not the only key. My suggestion for you, all these other things, they're there. But just for today, my suggestion to you is to look at these situations. Look at these things that you want, these situations you would like to be in, but you feel so much anxiety when you're in them. Look at these situations as training situations, okay? You're not practicing, you're not trying to learn, like I told you, I used to think of relationships like a dance that I didn't know the steps to. You're not trying to learn the steps, okay? You're not trying to learn the steps because you already actually know them, okay? Deep down, I know you don't believe me, but deep down, you've already got it. What you're learning how to do is deal with this stressor called anxiety. You're learning, just like if you stepped into an ice bath, or just like if you go exercise. you're dealing with stressors you're putting on your body. Now, just like an ice bath, or just like a cold shower, or just like the gym, if I told you to go run, 1,000 miles today, or I don't you know what I'm saying? Something that is just, there's certain degrees that will kill you, right? There are certain levels of anxiety that you should not try to push yourself into. So, what do you start with? Well, if you want to learn to walk in the snow, the first thing you do is you start with a cold shower. If you want to learn to do power lifting and clean and press, the first thing you do is start with very low weights and short workouts. If you want to learn how to run a 5K or a 10K or even a 50K, the first thing you learn how to do is the very basics, the small steps. And here's the thing, those count, my friends. Those really count. And I'm going to tell you about how it worked for me in future videos, because this is how I did it myself. You start small and you count your victories. Okay, I'm going to make a coffee date with a friend. I'm going to have lunch with someone, and maybe it's no big deal to that other person. Don't make it into a big deal, right? You're just doing just this normal behavior that you want to normalize in your life, right? It's a normal behavior, causes us stress, causes us anxiety, but you're trying to normalize this regular behavior. So what you do is you practice. I remember what I would do is I would say, okay, I called a friend. I said, hey, let's play guitar. Let's play guitar together. And I would go over for about an hour, and it was just me and another person. And we would play guitar together. I'd feel good about myself. I would overcome the anxiety of having a social interaction. And then I would go home. I would chalk it up as a victory. And I would remember that, okay, I can do these things. And I would keep doing it. Okay? You keep doing it. I would try to be extra friendly in line at the coffee shop. I would try to say good morning to every person I met, because I'm practicing having small social interactions. I suffered from social anxiety, okay? And it's something I still train to this day, okay? So we have to continuously train ourselves. This is part of it. We train ourselves with these small things and we work our way up. There is nothing wrong with you, my friend. There was nothing wrong with me. It's just that I was expecting way too much out of myself way too soon. And what I needed to do was scaffold myself, give myself some scaffolding to find that level of comfort. And then guess what? If you work within that and you're constantly just kind of nudging this comfort zone, you're just nudging it. If you're just constantly nudging that comfort zone a little bit, guess what happens to your comfort zone? It expands and it gets wider. And guess what? It's never going to be fast enough. So don't even get me started on, well, how soon can I see results? You can just shut up on that one, okay? we don't need to quantify. Again, stop overthinking it. Stop overthinking it. Just say, every day I'm going to make an effort, and it's going to be small. And maybe I'm going to take a day off now and then. That's okay. As long as you don't go back into your cave. You know what I'm talking about whenever I say going back into your cave, don't you? Maybe you have another way of putting it, but oftentimes we go back into our caves just to avoid that anxiety. So this is, like I said, this is the first of many episodes about anxiety and about how to overcome anxiety. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to talk about depression. We're going to talk about dread. We're going to talk about a lot of these things. But anxiety is the number one thing I get the most questions about. And I've got to say, anxiety is the number one thing that's pushed me, myself, into awful places in my life. And it's the one thing that I will say also, that I learned how to train, because I learned how to train myself slowly but steadily, that I'm a happy, very, very happy person today. And you can be too. I promise. So, having said that, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to go out there and be nice to people.